From the grind to the glory, one man's journey proves that heart, hustle, and determination change the game. This is Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., where adversity is met head-on and champions are made. Here's George.
Welcome to Catch as Catch Can. I'm George Tinsley Sr., former professional athlete, entrepreneur, author, and your host. This is a space where we sit down with leaders who face real challenges, learned real lessons, and kept moving forward.
Turning obstacles into opportunity.
Hello, welcome. We have Steven Sgroi, and if I mispronounce that, please excuse me, who is a sports business leader and the founder of Franthlete, helping athletes transition into entrepreneurship and business ownership. After working with the Orlando Magic and spending over a decade in corporate franchising, Steven launched Franthlete in 2019 to help athletes build wealth and opportunities beyond sports. He was named one of the top 100 franchise influencers worldwide in 2025. Steven, welcome. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, George. Appreciate you having me. Great to be here.
Did I mispronounce your last name? Help us out here.
It's Sgroi, but nobody ever gets it right, so I'm used to that.
Well, it's a catching name, so hopefully we'll get it right moving forward. Well, welcome to the program. And now, where are you based today?
I'm in Central Florida, not too far here, Central Florida.
You're in what city? Tampa. Okay. All right. I noticed that you had Orlando Magic connection. So what inspired you to move from sports business into entrepreneurship?
Well, growing up, I was a high school basketball player in my area here. I had dreams of maybe playing in college and beyond, but kind of saw the tea leaves for myself and said, well, maybe I can get on the other side of this. I think my dream was really to be a sports agent. And so, started down that path, really sports business and entrepreneurship. My parents were small business owners, so I kind of had that in the back of my mind. I just knew I didn't want to do what they did. They were an insulation company. And so being in the attic at, 150 degrees wasn't the path for me. I had to find my own path. And, I stayed involved in a few different opportunities here in Central Florida. And the Orlando Magic being one, had a great run there. Got to see them go to the finals. And during the Dwight Howard years, got to see Kobe win a championship. And, I kind of saw what the industry was about a little bit. Just a glimpse of it, and really saw some, gaps for players. So to further explain, I needed to get a job. I had a family, I had mouths to feed and all that good stuff. And I said, what's next for me? And I think I kind of went through that same transition that most players go through when they hang up sports, And so I just happened to get a job for a company that was a franchisor. Didn't know much about the space, but ended up spending a good 12 years there, onboarding, supporting franchisees, offering field support, things that you did as well. And, it kind of clicked for me as I kind of reflect on that whole idea of being an agent. I realized, agents are only as good as you're playing. They kind of stop answering the phone once you're done playing. And so when that day comes, who's there to help? And that's where I saw the gap. And so I obviously saw a lot of great case studies, yourself being one of them, and kind of thought to myself, why don't we help guys get into business, And that's what we did.
No, it's very, very, very interesting. And, so a lot of guys that I know have traveled the same route that you've traveled. One in particular, I might mention a guy by the name of Stephen Mervis, who is from right here in this area, who became a assistant general manager with the Magic and now just got hired into the second highest position with the Chicago Bulls recently, and which we're real proud of Stephen, having known him ever since he was a young whippersnapper, if you will, here in the Winter Haven area. So congratulations on your road. Tell me about what you're actually doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really started with the idea of kind of being an after sports agent. I took what the idea of being a sports agent was and thought about, well, everyone's career is going to end at some point. What's next? And what do we do? That's where Franthlete was kind of founded. I said, well, okay, there's a great case studies out there already. Yourself, Shaq, Drew Brees, Junior Bridgman, and guys like that. But what could we do to educate guys on the world of franchising? Show them what's possible. And it could be food. It could be beyond food. I think most people who think of franchising think of food. They think of fitness. And those are great businesses, but there's now so much out there. So getting guys to understand what the world of franchising looks like, what it entails, how it is very similar and transferable to sport in that there's a playbook and coaches and everything else that you know so well. And really, it started there with that kind of premise. It's evolved since then because so much has changed in the marketplace, right? Just the past few years, NIL has started coming around. That's not something we knew about or I even planned for. So, now I have franchise brands coming to me and saying, well, hey, you've got these connections with athletes. Can you help us find maybe an ambassador or local marketing, spend by sponsoring a local athlete? So we're doing things that we didn't initially, account for, if you will. And so found opportunity, if you will. But now we're diversifying. We're funding different opportunities. We're bringing guys into different opportunities. We're putting the pieces together, nations, and finding the fit. So there's a lot of nuance now going into really our suite, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So for our audience that's listening in, and hopefully some athletes that are out there that are either retired, thinking about retired, or those that might be playing that may be looking for a partner to actually participate in a franchise opportunity. Tell us specifically how that connection is working for you.
Yeah, so it's kind of all about understanding what their goals are, explaining to them. Obviously, education is first and foremost. But then from there, it's what are your goals? What do we want the next 5 to 10 years to look like? And then identifying where there may be opportunities. Obviously, understanding capital, understanding lifestyle, interests, goals, things like that are important as well. And it's a family business, as I think you know well as well. So, taking all of that into account to identify where there's opportunities, maybe in their local market. And if not in their local market, then more on the investor side, aligning with current operators who are existing and operating and looking to expand and matching them, and those pieces, if you will. So, it's a fun business, right? I mean, I never almost feel like I'm working at this point because I'm doing what I love. And I think that's where we all want to get to. So I aspire to help everyone do the same.
Yeah, well, when you're doing something you love, it's not work. You enjoy, and your whole day, you're motivated to continue to do it at the highest level. From a business coach, and that would be your title today. Is that correct?
There's a lot of hats, but sure.
So once you have made that connection between the athlete and the franchisor, if you will, what do you step in? What do you do from that point on? Can you granulate it a little bit?
Sure. If they're on the side of owner operator or building the infrastructure themselves, that's one thing. Obviously we're going to help to align them with funding partners as well to help figure out the finance, part of things and how that's going to come together. We equip them with things like a franchise attorney to review the FDD, obviously, and the franchise agreement with them if they're ready to move forward. So obviously helping them to understand what they're getting into and, what that's going to look like on the day-to-day. And how it's going to work around their lifestyle. Again, if they're involved, if they're more on the investor side, that's a different equation. Obviously, we're going to field the operations teams. And, we also have opportunities for these athletes to invest in the actual franchising entity of some of the brands that we're helping to scale as well. So we brought some of that development in-house with some athlete-led brands. And we're excited about those opportunities to scale alongside some of our athletes as well.
Mm-hmm. Can you give me an example of athletic or athlete-led brand?
So right now we're working on a concept. I could switch hats. It's called Chili Burrito. It's based out of Nashville. And so this concept in particular, we brought on an equity partner, an athlete, a guy who won two World Series with the Chicago Cubs, who had that, over a decade-long drought.
Yeah.
And so that was a big deal, right? And so we got that set up. And we brought him in as a partner in the franchising entity alongside a terrific operator. And he's now, been in the business over 20 years, ready to scale, was looking for that equity partner, that, I guess, gas on the fire, if you will. And we were able to help bring those pieces together. And now we're kind of in that next phase of, okay, well, let's start getting this thing ramped up, FDDs, ops manual, all that kind of stuff. And then let's sell some units and roll this thing out.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very interesting. So with the launch is Franthlete, how do you pronounce that?
Franthlete.
Franthlete. Okay.
I don't make names easy for you, whether it's my last name or my business name. I like to challenge people.
I can see. I appreciate that. Keep me alert there. But in creating that and launching it, what besides the learnings that you had, what caused you to want to launch this idea? Was it something specific that you saw in working with the Magic, or working with what actually caused you to launch that?
Yeah. So as I learned, working in the business, I was actually on the franchisor side, and I was actually on the supplier side as well, working with a lot of brands, helping them with their local marketing. This company, this franchisor, was a marketing company at the end of the day. So, we were working with so many brands that we know and see in our local communities: Little Caesars, Marco's Pizza, Jet's Pizza, Clean Juice. A lot of these brands did have some athlete ties, but I really learned about the fact that they all had a system and a playbook. And so, at that point, I learned about you. I learned about Junior. I saw like real life case studies, Shaq, Drew Brees, and the more and more I stumbled on it because I was a sports guy and I just thought there was such a natural fit. And the more I thought about it, I said, well, that's where the gap seems to be. From my experience in shadowing some agents and getting around some agents, I realized that there was that transitional gap. And I said, well, franchising just seems to be a really good fit. I love it. I love business and I love teaching. I love educating. So, however I can be involved in, playing a part in helping guys create generational wealth and create lifestyle, income, and everything beyond the game, I felt like that's where my value add was at that point, spending a good 15 years on the corporate side. I sometimes think about now, do I become an agent? Do I go that route? Maybe that is something that's in the cards. Your friend, you mentioned earlier, Steven, maybe getting back into, a team or operations of a team. It's things I come back to, but I really think I found my purpose. I think I'm here for good reason. I think I'm here where I'm supposed to be. And we all yearn for that. So I'm blessed to have that.
Well, Stephen, that's important, understanding and feeling that you're where you need to be. When you work with the Magic specifically, what was your jobs over that 12-year period that you worked with them? What actually did you do then?
No, it's just a few years there. 12 years was with a franchisor called Our Town over in Clearwater, but much like Valpak. With the Magic, I was there during Dwight Howard years. So, I was there for a short stint, but I got to see a hectic playoff atmosphere, finals year for us. It was a lot of fun. I was in sales. So, got to see a little bit of the corporate sales, got to see retail sales. It's funny, one of our facility manager ended up leaving us there and went to the Warriors. Had pretty good luck there, as it turned out.
Yeah. Okay. I got a better feel for where you were at that particular time. You mentioned Junior, Shaquille, and myself. Was there something specific about those studies that you enticed you?
Well, you and Junior specifically, right? You weren't household names. You didn't have a lot of money, so it was a different kind of story than a Shaq or a Drew Brees, who really could just do whatever they wanted at that point. I was definitely more keen and enlightened by you and Junior for the fact that, not a household name, didn't make a whole lot of money, but was able to turn that into a lifelong career beyond the game and generational wealth, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. A lot of young men out there, when they're looking at that, you're exactly right. That's the part that they missed, that we didn't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Junior made more than I did, but
Right.
didn't make a whole lot of money. A $15,000-$20,000 a year annual salary in the ABA was almost at minimum at that time. So very interesting. What did you were named a top 100 franchise influencer? Tell me about that.
Yeah, just this past year, it's definitely an honor. I didn't see that in the cards for myself. Didn't really think too much about it until it happened. But it's always great to be noticed and rewarded for and noticed, acknowledged for your efforts. So it's cool, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's more about putting guys into business and fulfilling the mission here. How many guys can we help get into business and create additional wealth and income streams and create the life they want to live beyond the game.
Correct. Yeah, we're flashing up now your website and some of your information here. Is there anything particular that you would like to see? see the listeners dive into? You want to walk us through anything here? As you see a top 100 and was it 50 to 41?
Yeah, no, if there's an interest in learning more, definitely reach out to us. You can go to our homepage there at the contact, I guess contact us there at the top.
Okay.
Fill out your information, reach out. We'll be happy to talk to you. And we work with everybody at the end of the day. Do a lot of great work with veterans as well. We feel like veterans have a very similar profile to the athlete, obviously, understand process and playbooks and everything else. But we work with anybody, anybody looking to get into business for themselves, whether it's corporate background, as myself, former players, or serve the country for sure.
Mm-hmm. So have you spend time connecting with different franchise organizations or franchisor organizations, reaching out? You do, and yeah. What would you say? What do you say to them if those corporations that are out there listening in are represented? Because obviously they're trying to figure out how to get in touch with the athletes today. How could you help them out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just newer case studies. I mentioned some of the case studies that I found when I was, looking at this 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Just recently, Carlos Boozer was on Franchise Times cover, I think last month. There was a couple other cases within that as well about athletes and their experience in franchising. One that I placed personally, Demir Bird, who played 9 years in the NFL. Undrafted receiver. Again, one of those stories that I love because undrafted, he's gritty. He had to figure it out, had to stick around, right? And so, he can apply that to business. And he's, funny enough, he's in the roofing business now. It wasn't on his radar whatsoever, and he's doing very well. Right. So those are the kind of stories we love. But yeah, we work with close to 1,000 different brands. We're here to help the brands. If there's an interest in reaching out to this wonderful community of athletes, then obviously we're here to help you do that. Just reach out to us and we can see if it makes sense and take it from there.
Mm-hmm. And when we think of NIL money, that's these athletes that are going to school for 1 year on to 4 years, and then the kind of money they're making in NIL, some of them would rather stay in college than to leave, go to the pros where they make less for the first 3 or 4 years, whatever the league is, So are you working with any of those youngsters and are their family?
Yeah, no, it's amazing how, it's getting younger and younger, right? Just this past year, about a year ago now, Seth Trimble from North Carolina took his NIL earnings and purchased a Ben & Jerry's with that NIL earnings on campus right there at what is it, Dirt Road, Chapel Hill, right on campus. And the youngest franchisee in that system. I didn't do that. That wasn't my deal. But absolutely, those are the kind of opportunities we're looking to help with and assist with. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense, for some guys who maybe aren't as likely to get to that next level, but have made some money now, scale a business.
Mm-hmm. So how would an athlete that's in school, that's getting his NIL money and his family, I would say, how do they navigate that with the actual eligibility standpoint in Chapel Hill, let's say North Carolina, and still be able to play as well as having an active business? That's all new territory.
It's the Wild West, exactly.
Yeah.
It's 100% allowed these days. So now he's going to obviously put the infrastructure to make sure that the location is staffed appropriately and taken care of, because obviously he's got practice and everything else that's going on. But I liken it to, I think when guys got to the league, a lot of guys wanted to buy mom and dad a car and a house and things like that. But my attitude is buy them a business, right? It's like teach them how to fish. You know what I mean? It's the whole same principle. It's like, put them to work a little bit, build a family business, scale something together, take them out of corporate America or out of that job. And yeah, you're going to help them. They're going to buy a house eventually, if that's the case, but get them out there and working as well.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Hopefully some of our listeners will call in and follow up on that, because that's a very interesting way to go about building a business versus some of the things that they're spending money on that can reinvest it into different things that are going on. Excuse me. What advice would you give athletes that are looking into franchising and as a business opportunity?
I think with any opportunity, you got to be open-minded, right? So explore all of it. And I'm not here to say that franchising is a silver bullet or it's the end-all be-all. I believe in everything. I believe in real estate. I believe in VC. I believe in PE. I believe in all the stuff. So explore it and figure out what you like about every opportunity out there. And, as you dig in a little bit deeper, find others who can be a good mentor for you, right? People who have been in your shoes, who have been through the transition. Again, I mentioned nowadays there's people getting involved sooner and earlier, which is great. And so it's getting younger and younger, and you have now current players operating cash flowing businesses in addition to their career. It's a beautiful thing. And so we're here to assist with that. But obviously we can help, whether it be mentors or, the information they need, or figuring out what the right brand is, or connecting with operators. We're trying to help bridge those gaps. So get comfortable being uncomfortable, seek the information, don't stop learning, and put the pedal to the metal when it feels right.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things you mentioned a little earlier, which is a key in franchising, which is the FDD. How do you handle explaining that to a new person coming into the business, and how important that document is?
Yeah, I think it's definitely very important. I leave that a little bit to the attorneys, but I do obviously have them look at the item 19, which is going to show what the average units volume is. The item 7, which is going to show them what the investment looks like. Item 20 to kind of get a feel for whether the system's growing or contracting, things like that. So we help to identify those opportunities and that nuance there. But really, I think the most important part is going to be talking to other owners in that system, because at that point, they can really ask the hard questions, right? What was it like getting started? What were the challenges? What was the support like? What's the support like now? How involved are you today? If you had all this information that you have now, would you do it again? Would you make this decision and start this franchise again? How much money are you making now? Like all those questions that they may have that I think are going to help to, have either the light bulb go off and say, you know what, this feels like an opportunity that makes sense for me based on what I now understand and know of the actual day-to-day from somebody who's doing it versus salespeople, right? There's a huge difference. So the FDD sometimes is a marketing tool. And I think it should be treated as such. So I think having those conversations is of the utmost importance. And then, having an attorney review the document with them so that they know exactly what their obligations are going to be, and everyone's, comfortable with moving forward.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned attorney, and you didn't mention, but it's just equally important as the CPA. Is that part of your resources, or that's a recommendation that you make?
We have not yet. We can't hire attorneys ourselves, so that's a third party. But we could refer to franchise attorneys.
Right.
Most of these guys do have their own CPAs, but we also have franchise CPAs we can refer to as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what kind of advice would you give athletes considering franchising today?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What kind of advice would you give the athletes that are looking to get into franchising today?
Yeah, reach out to us again, explore it. Don't just be enamored with the shiny objects. I think nowadays there's so many opportunities out there, and we're thinking about AI, and we're thinking about pandemics and recessions and all these other things too. So look at all the nooks and crannies, and understand, that there's more than what meets the eye. I think we only know what we see. And there's just so much more out there. Seek the advice and counsel of somebody like myself, that sees some of those other things. I like to think, some of my job is really just kicking rocks over and figuring out where the goal is, and I see a lot of that. And unfortunately, some of those brands, they're just not out there, it's not in front of them. So, but there's a lot of great stuff out there and a lot of bad stuff too, so keeping guys aware of what to look out for, where the red flags are, what's important to look for, and, their discovery.
Mm-hmm. As a franchise influencer, Stephen, how many is in your group? Is it just you, or do you have a group that works with you?
Yeah, we've got a team of 3 right now. A salesperson who played college football at Vanderbilt. He's on my team. I've got a marketing person as well who kind of helps us with outreach and that kind of stuff. But we're looking to expand. I think my goal is really to bring on other advocates in franchising, other guys who have been through it, understand it, and can speak to it. I'd love to have, somebody from the basketball side, football side, somebody from every walk in Major League, really, if you will, to kind of advocate and play a part and really getting the word out there and, moving this thing forward alongside me.
Do you get a chance to speak to any associations, Retired Players Association, NFL, NBA?
Yeah.
Do you get a chance to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some great organizations. Spend some time with the NFLPA, their former players division, NBA legends community, pro athlete community, things like that. So, wherever we can get out and educate, absolutely, we're here to do it. Again, it's fun. We look at it that way. It's giving back, but it's also what we love to do.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy by the name of Greg Foster. That's the chapter.
I know Greg.
You know Greg. Okay. Well, Greg is now on the board of,
retired. Antonio, yeah.
Yes. Yep. Okay. You know the group.
Yep.
I was wondering whether you had reached out to them or not, because we're getting ready to have a meeting, and we have 3 chapters here in the state of Florida. So great.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. Well, as we close, Stephen, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience that enhanced the relationship that guys could reach out to you? Sounds like you got quite a few connections already working out there.
Really just, stay curious, right? I think that's the most important thing. It keeps you young. I think you know that. I see you out there, you spring chicken yourself. I don't know what kind of surgeries you're recovering from, man, but keep inspiring us all. I want to be like you one day when I grow up.
2 hip replacements. I tell you, I overdid it here recently. That's why I'm moving around slow today. I had a battle over lower back pain. But okay. Well, Steve, we wish you all the luck in the world. Enjoy having you on the program today. Hopefully, based off the connections, we'll run into each other somewhere soon. I have restaurants over there in Tampa that I'm over there quite a bit. So we'll hopefully connect and see where might be able to help one another out.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Appreciate you having me on, George.
Well, I appreciate you being on. Okay, take care.
Likewise, man.
This has been Catch as Catch Can. The game isn't over. Your success story is just getting started. Head to TinsleySpeaks.com for exclusive content, resources, and opportunities. Catch as Catch Can with George Tinsley Sr., a production of Live Stream Editors.